Hi everyone, this is Brian Hayes and welcome to a discussion on how to use major scales to play in minor keys. Today we're going to look at the important concept in music of relative major and relative minor keys. We're going to use the cycle of fifths, and I'll put a diagram up on the screen just to show you the overall relationship across all the 12 key signatures between the key signature and the associated major and minor key. But let's start off with the easiest key of all, that is C major, the key that has no sharps or flats in it. So if I was to play a C major scale on the alto saxophone, those notes will be C, D, E, F, G, A, B and C. So it's an 8-note scale if we include the octave. I'll play that scale for you. So that's in the key of C major. If I was to create an improvised melody in that key, assuming that I'm not allowed to play any other note other than the notes in the scale, I might play something like this. And there are literally a million combinations and permutations of how you can order those notes when you bring in the octaves, and particularly when you bring in articulations and syncopation and what have you. So even though we've only got those 8 notes in the scale, the creativity factor is simply limited to your own imagination. Now, that's great if we're in the key of C. We can play any of those notes in any order and make up our melodies and our improvisations. If the music changed to the key of A minor, so we went from a major key to a minor key, the exciting news is A minor is the relative minor to C major. Now that means it shares an identical key signature. So the notes in an A natural minor scale are the same notes as in the C major scale. We simply start and end on the note A. So the notes of an A natural minor scale will be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. No sharps and flats. We simply start on the 6th degree, the 6th note of the C major scale. Now, another way to think of that is we count back from the 8th note of the scale. So 2 ways to work out what that note is. We start on C and we go C, D, E, F, G, A. 6 notes. 6 notes up the C major scale is the note A. A quicker way to work it out is to count backwards from the 8th note of the scale. So C was the 8th note, B was the 7th note, A is the 6th note. You get to it so much quicker. C, B, A. You then simply do exactly what I did before. If you want to create an improvised melody in the key of A minor, you can play any of the notes of a C scale, starting and ending on an A. Now, you haven't got to start and end on an A, but the actual scale of A minor does start and end on A. So I'll just now create a melody in the key of A minor. It's just as easy to improvise in the key of A minor as it is to improvise in the key of C major. Now, I want you to take a close look at the diagram that's on the screen. It's a very powerful tool to understand the relationship between major and minor keys. The outer circle on the diagram shows all of the major keys going in ascending order of sharps, then coming back through flats. The inner circle shows the corresponding relative minor keys for each of the outer circle major keys. So if we look at the 12 o'clock position, we'll see that C major and A minor share the same key signature. Now that's exactly what we've just demonstrated. If you take the next key around the circle in a clockwise motion, you'll find that G major and E minor are relative to each other. That simply means that to play an E natural minor scale, you would simply use the notes of a G major scale starting and ending on an E. So those notes would be E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D and E. And it would sound like this. If we go around one more key around the clock in a clockwise motion, the major key is D major, which has the two sharps in it, but the relative minor key is B minor, the sixth note of a D major scale, and remember you can find that quickly by counting backwards. So a D major scale would be D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, D being the eighth note, C sharp being the seventh note, and B being the sixth note. So to play a B natural minor scale, we simply start on the note B and play up and down a D major scale, ending on the note B. So it would sound like this. Now I recommend you go back to the full screen image of the cycle of fifths as often as you need and work your way around through all of the key signatures. Improvising and creating melodies in minor keys is absolutely no harder than doing that in a major key. So just one more time, if I played a melody in D major, the key that has two sharps, I might play something like this. So I just made up a short little melody there using notes out of the D major scale. If I had to improvise or create a melody in B minor, I used the same basic notes out of a D major scale. It's a mystery to many musicians what scale to use against what chord in what key. The starting point is to be able to play fluently every major scale in music. Now I have some tutorials that you can check out on playing around the cycle of fifths where I take the time to tell you the notes of every one of those scales and I give you some play along exercises to test your skills. What you can now start to do is learn to play around the cycle of fifths in minor keys. And use the diagram previously in this tutorial if you're not clear on which key is the relative major and minor key to the other. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. You might have learnt something very new here today. And even if you've been familiar with this, it's probably a good refresher to put in practice the ability to just on the spot create a melody in both a major key and then instantly create an alternative melody using the same key signature, but now of course playing in a minor key. Bye for now.